Welcome to the first episode of the Smashmouthing Football's American Football Podcast. I'm your host, David McDonald, and I'm here today with a sports writer based in the UK, Conor Perrott, to talk all things American football and getting ready for the new season. How you getting on, Conor?
I'm good, thanks. Good morning to yourself. How you feeling? New season ahead.
Oh, I'm excited. Thursday night football, it's always a great event, and what a brilliant game on tomorrow night. The Chiefs and the Lions, one of the best matchups of the weekend, and it's the first out the gate. What do you think of the Super Bowl champions being the team that generally starts off on Thursday night football?
I think it's good. You always want to see they're the team that's just gone on to win, and a lot can change in a summer, so it's always good to see them first. Have they improved? Have they even regressed? We've got some things to talk about with them, but it's always, I feel the champions should sort of dictate the season and be the first to show themselves, really.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's a good way of doing it. And I'm delighted they stopped doing that thing where, remember they used to replay the Super Bowl there a few years ago? I just thought that got off. People got kind of like sick of the same team playing against each other.
Yeah.
I think it's a brilliant matchup. And you're a Lions, as well as being a sports journalist, you're a Lions fan as well?
I am, yes. A Lions fan now for too long. Was one of my worst decisions I made, but it's all going to plan now, so it's all good.
And the Lions are probably I'd say they're probably the most surprising team of last season. How did you think they got on last season, and how do you think they've improved over the off season?
Yeah, I really do. I think last season, our first year under Campbell and Holmes was a complete rebuild. So the second year, you wanted to see a bit improvement. I wasn't expecting anything too crazy, but we started the season 1-6, and that was a bit, okay, are we going down the right road here? And then we turned it around, 8-2 finished down the last 10 games, and now the momentum's really rolling into this season, where I think we've had a good off-season, and I think the sky isn't the limit still. There's still things that we have to clear up, and we still are the Lions of old, so it's not going to be perfect, but I think we're in a real chance to maybe win our division, really, and I think that's sort of the expectation going into the season.
Yeah, in the off season you made two big free agency signings in the defensive backs. The Sidney Gardner-Johnson came in at safety, and Sutton came in from the Steelers.
Yeah, so that was
Kirby Joseph. So do you expect that to be a particular strength this season?
Yeah, so our defense really in particular is going to be what makes or break our season. It was really poor last year. I think it was a bit of a tale of two seasons. We started the year practically the worst defense in the league, and then we sort of changed things up schematically, moved to more like 4-3, and it about middle of the road towards the end of the year. In off season we've attacked that. In free agency, we just attacked the defense. Like you said, we brought in Gardner-Johnson, who I think's going to be a real spark at the back there, not just with how he plays, but his way that he goes into the game. He's a big talker, and I think that's going to, practically when he's around a lot of young guys, because we do have a young defense, it's going to make everyone, I feel, up their game a little bit. As you said as well, Sutton, and we also signed Emmanuel Mosley from the 49ers, he's coming off an ACL injury. He only returned last week, so he might be good to go in the game, but they might take it slow. And we've also added there with Brian Branch, who is one of the biggest surprises of training camp for us. He was a second-round pick out of Alabama.
Yeah, I really liked him last year at Alabama. He's a really, really hard-hitting guy in the middle of the field, or he's coming from safety. You could probably play that the nickel position as well.
Yeah, he seems to take that nickel position in training camp, really, and pushed his way into the starting team. He wasn't a starter, and he's pushed the team captain out in Tracy Walker now to practically probably be starting now, maybe against Kelsey.
And you picked him up in the middle of the second round?
Yeah, so it was about, we traded back in the second round, and then we traded back up to go and get him, about middle of the second.
So, just to touch on the draft, how did you feel when the Lions traded back and they made their two picks, Jahmyr Gibbs and the linebacker from Iowa instead of? Would you prefer that they had maybe taken a shot at Jalen Carter, or how did you feel?
Yeah, going into the draft, we had the sixth pick, and I wanted to walk away with Witherspoon, the corner, Jalen Carter, and Witherspoon went just before us, so I knew Carter was a bit of a. I really liked him, but then I knew there's the other side of things that we don't know all the details about, and I trusted the team to where if they didn't feel he's the right player for them, they would pass on him. So when we passed on him, I wasn't too bothered, but when we traded back and took Gibbs, I was very surprised to take a running back and then the linebacker Campbell. It was a bit surprising because I've always felt like we've taken best player available, and on the go leading up to the draft, I don't think Gibbs and Campbell were seen as mid-round first, but they've now that you've seen them sort of how they're going to use them, and I feel better about the pick, certainly. I like both players, but yeah, my initial reaction was very shocking what the Lions have done.
Yeah, I think actually one of my favourite players coming out this year is actually Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's going to be. He reminds me so much of Alvin Kamara. He's just got that gas that. So there's a lot of fast running backs out there, but he is just a flyer.
Yeah,
and he's got great hands as well. So I think he's going to be an option in the passing game. I was very surprised with Jack Campbell as well, mainly because I didn't think he was a first round pick, just based only on the fact that he's kind of slow to run. I mean, great footballer in college. He's definitely a Dan Campbell sort of character on the field. He's kind of like leaves everything out in the line. But I didn't expect him to go that high. But supposedly, if the Lions hadn't picked him, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would have picked him 19 anyway. So
yeah, I saw that from their little video. He is, and you'll see when they're playing. He's not actually the starter yet. Our fifth round pick from a couple of years ago, Derek Barnes, has won the starting job. But you'll see how big Campbell is. He's so tall, and when he's man marking a running back, he just towers over them like a little boy.
Yeah, he's a smart player as well. And one of the things I've looked at the Lions and the players they've brought in, they're all very, very smart players, even in free agency and in the draft. Like I just said, Brian Branch, and another player that's probably kind of gone unnoticed because he was injured was Hendon Hooker in the third round. I mean, what a pickup that is! Like we could be sitting here next year and he's the starting quarterback for the Detroit Lions. I mean, it would have been a first round pick, probably the first half of the first round if he hadn't got that ACL injury going into his last few games at Tennessee. How do you think he might progress during the season?
I think he's going to be good, Hooker. So at the minute he's still on, I think, the on active list. I don't think I would be surprised if he plays at all. I think if Hooker does play, then the Lions season hasn't gone to plan. We've signed Teddy Bridgewater to really be that backup in case Goff does go down. But from a long term, I like the move, really. I've always sort of been against picking QBs on day two because I feel they're not good enough for day one. But this one in particular, like you say, with the injury, he could have been a day one talent. He was a Heisman contender. And I feel, like I say, Jared Goff still got 2 years left on his deal. We might maybe 3 if you look at a franchise tag, and I feel if you give Hooker just 2 years to progress along, I think he has a higher upside than Goff, and if he can reach that, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the quarterback for the future.
Yeah, no, I think the Lions had one of the best off seasons in the NFL this year. To build on, as you said, a really, really young team. What you make of when Jameson Williams, the wide receiver, getting done for the betting, and how many games is he suspended for? Is it 6 games?
Yeah, so he misses the first 6 games. He also picked up a hamstring injury about last 2 weeks of training camp, and he's not allowed in the team facility for the first 3 weeks of his suspension. So he's not allowed to pick treatment up. JMO is it's a hot topic among the Lions community. A lot of people, like to really hate on him because I guess he hasn't hit the heights yet. But he's still really a rookie in my eyes. He's barely played in this league. When he has, he's made a few spectacular plays. But he's still a bit raw. So it'll be interesting. I think more people wanted him to dominate in training camp this year, and he maybe didn't as much. But you can't deny his speed, really, and when he's on that field, he'd be a miss.
Oh, he's absolutely electric. I mean, talent he has. Just like, especially when you think Amra Ra said Brown will be on the other side.
Hmm.
You're not going to be able to double team both of them. But I think he does come when he does come back. I think it'll give the Lions that 1-2 punch. One thing about the Lions last year was their run defense. They had a very, very poor run defense.
Hmm.
And how do you think they're going to address that this year? Do you think they have addressed it, or do you think what's your opinion about it?
I don't think they've addressed it with personnel. Our interior D lineman is the exact same to last year. Granted, our front seven was very young, so I think they are hoping that they sort of grow as players to maybe improve that. And I think so. I am still a bit worried about it. I think it is that and our secondary, especially outside corners. How are they going to fare? I still think there are some holes there. But also, I think we do change our scheme up. We flip between a lot of systems to where I'm hoping maybe that can be the difference in our run defense rather than the personnel that we haven't added.
So you think they're going to try and coach their way out of it with a young team? And
Yeah, like I say, we've changed. I know they've changed their gaps, the way they look at it. And so I know that interior D linemen are going to try and cause more havoc to the linebackers. There's space for the linebackers to come down more. So I think that's their way to do it, really, instead of bringing in a new interior lineman.
I think when the Chiefs are drawing up their game plan tomorrow night or Thursday night football, I mean, that's I think that's where they're going to start. They're going to try and get that run game going. And what do you think of the Chiefs off season?
I mean, they haven't done crazy stuff, I feel, but they are consistently good. They're the Super Bowl champs, offensive line strong. I think receivers, they've lost Juju, which obviously is going to be a big miss from them. But they brought Tony in towards the end of last year, so maybe he can kick on. I know he's a bit questionable for the game on Thursday, but they're a solid team. They've got Mahomes at quarterback. They've got good running back, good receivers, Travis Kelce, of course, and defense that's where the big talking point is with no Chris Jones, but I just think they're a solid team. I think they're the next dynasty, really, after the Patriots.
Yeah, no, I think when you have Mahomes back there, it makes everybody really good. And I think the likes of Tony and Sky Moore, look, they're very small receivers, but when you've Mahomes throwing the ball, one thing I didn't like about Tony coming out was I didn't think he was very good at contested catches. Mm-hmm. And I think with most quarterbacks, having a small player being able to throw contested catches, you really need a rocket of an arm to actually try and throw them into space. I think the Chiefs are going to struggle a little bit this year. As you said, Juju Smith-Schuster, I think, is going to be a massive loss, mainly because when Kelce was double teamed or even triple teamed, he was a player that could win contested catches. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they've replaced him, and I'm surprised really because every free agent wants to go to the Chiefs and play with Mahomes and have a chance of winning the Super Bowl. So yeah. I think they might struggle. I think they might struggle offensively a little bit more than they did last season, because last season wasn't really a struggle at all.
Fair enough.
And on defense, yeah, I think when you're playing the best teams, you really need Chris Jones. I mean, they would not have won that Super Bowl without Chris Jones last year. They wouldn't have won the AFC Championship game without Chris Jones. So I think as long as they get him back for the main part of the season, and I expect it to happen, because I think they're offering him $25 million. He's looking for $28 million a year. Mm-hmm. I think they'll probably meet somewhere in the middle, especially now that the games are coming thick and fast. So, what's your judgment of who's going to win tomorrow? Like, are the Lions meeting the Chiefs at the right time, do you think?
I think so. I know at least I wanted, you get the list of games who you're going to play home and away, and I saw the Chiefs away, and I was like, I want them week one. I feel like the Lions thrive on being an underdog. They play with a chip on their shoulder. Everyone is expecting the Chiefs to not roll them over, but to look impressive after a Super Bowl. And so I am confident. I feel this is a really good time to play the Lions. We're healthy. I don't think we're not really lacking any starters bar J-Mo, who's on his suspension. And I'm confident, and I was still a bit wary. I thought the Chiefs were going to win without Chris Jones, but with now Kelsey picking up a little injury yesterday, he's still questionable for the game. That might tilt me one way to go to the Lions personally.
Yeah, I think anytime Kelsey's not on the field, it's really like getting your nearly, and Stan Campbell would say, somebody biting your kneecaps off, like, I think any team would love to play the Chiefs with Kelsey missing. It just puts a little bit more pressure on the Mahomes. But and how do you think the Lions pass rush? Like, obviously Adrian Hutchinson's coming off a great season. Are they relying too much on him, or do you think there's more there on the D line?
No, yeah, Hutchinson. I feel the guy can be a star, and I feel edge is really where we're deepest at and we're strongest. We had 7 edge rushers going into training camp, and we didn't cut a single one of them. We have Charles Harris, who's returning from an injury. He had 10 sacks, I think, 2 years ago. Romeo Aquara had 10 sacks about 3 years ago, but he's coming off an Achilles injury. It's about 2 years ago now, so you're hoping he starts to get back into the swings of things. And James Houston is a guy to also look out for. He was a rookie last year, and he played, I think, 8 games and had about 8 or 9 sacks, I think he got in the end. He is strictly just a pass rusher. That's sort of where his forte is, just a third down specialist. And I don't say this often, but he when I watch him, he just looks like Von Miller to me. The way he rushes the passer, he dips, the crazy moves he does to get past these offensive tackles. That's what I mean. He still needs to improve in the run game and a lot of area, but pass rushing, he is. When you get him in third and long, you got to watch out for him and Hutchinson on the edge.
Well, I think that's a good preview for our very first episode. I think the Lions have a really good shot of upsetting the Chiefs tomorrow, or on Thursday Night Football. And Conor, thanks for the chat, and let's do it again next week.
No worries, anytime. Go Lions.